Hey, all right. A little technical difficulty, but we are good. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Thank you, as always, so much for tuning into this motivational podcast, Brian's Place. We are well into this 10th season, hitting the ground running. This is the second episode of the 10th season. I think that puts us at 181, 182 episodes. I am grateful for that. So today, how are you guys doing? As always, thank you for rocking and rolling with me. Greatly appreciate you. Today we are in for a treat with a capital T. Excuse me. Today we have an awesome, amazing featured guest. Today's featured guest is a member of National Alliance on Mental Health, as well as the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network. Today's featured guest is also a certified peer specialist. She is also a minister. Please welcome the bridge builder and the light of hope herself, Jessie Mabrey.
Hi, how are you? How are you, Brian? Hello to everyone.
How are you doing? Thank you again for taking the time to come on. Definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
You are definitely welcome. So someone once said, "To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world." What do you though? What comes to your mind when you hear those words?
That you matter to someone, somewhere, at some time. So always be ready.
Yeah, that's so good because just like the stars in the night sky, it can be, in my imagination, it could be easy to think, oh, a star is so small, and then when the star is surrounded by the vast amount of darkness, it could very well be easy for the star to shrink back and not to shine. But in the midst of the darkness, the star like shines and like gives it all it has, and like no matter what, I'm a shine. So it's like you said, that we still matter, and that's so important. And you've um, and you've been able to make a difference in the lives of many. You dealt with hospice, addiction, mental health, domestic violence. You advocate for people and have helped them through it all. I'm sure you've dealt with some pretty intense situations. What would you say would be the driving force that keeps you reaching out and helping those people time and time again?
What keeps me reaching out and helping people time and time again is the fact that we all need somebody at some time, and because I've lived in that environment, I have lived experience dealing with all those types of traumas. So I have to make myself available. I have to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to sound corny or anything. That's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's so good. It's because it's one thing to say, "Oh, this needs to happen. Oh, they need to do better," and there's one thing to complain, but it's another thing to like be the change you want to see. I would definitely feel. Some would say, especially those who you have helped, say that you are like a modern day Harriet Tubman, helping people to the place of hope. Your motto is "Where you've been is not who you are," and that's so good.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
it reminds me a lot because it's like in a car. There's a reason why the rear view mirror in a car is much smaller than the windshield, because although what's behind us may be great, there's so much greater in store before us. And our past doesn't define us. We are able to change a narrative in spite of what's happened to us, in spite of what we've been through, in spite of what others have tried to say about us. God doesn't judge us by our past, and neither should we.
Amen, amen, and amen. And let's just stop and think about the fact that uh, does anybody know or remember that the 12 disciples came from varied backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, all walks of life.
Yes.
So sitting in judgment of another individual, not having the ability to accept what's
Hmm.
right in front of you and know that there are gifts within that individual, regardless of what's in their rearview mirror.
Hmm.
We've
Yeah.
got to remember that.
Yeah. That's so good. It's like when they brought the woman caught in adultery, to Jesus. And on that note, I'm not sure where the guy was. You can't commit adultery by yourself, but that's another story. But they're like, look, Jesus, see what she did, and Jesus was like, okay, let him who is without sin, like, let him cast the first stone. But it's like he caused them to like look within themselves and was like, we all got stuff, we all got junk.
Yes. So true. So true. And it's really not about what we have had in our past. It's about what are we doing right now.
Exactly. That's so good. And you also work with women and children who've dealt with trauma. First, to those women who may be watching or listening to this, who maybe have dealt with trauma or maybe are currently dealing with trauma, I just want to encourage you and remind you that broken crowns still color. Um, how important do you feel it is to help a child work through their trauma so they don't carry it into adulthood?
Uh, the importance of a child not carrying trauma into adulthood. Let me say it from a standpoint of having created collateral damage in my life. Okay.
Hmm.
I left my child at the age of 11. She picked me up from the penitentiary at the age, she was at the age of 37, 38 years old. So that was 27 years that we were apart. I created collateral damage with my child. This child had to endure trauma. She had a very strong, supportive family around her, and I was
Mhm.
still a part of her life every single day. But she grew up with abandonment issues and anxiety issues as a result of the poor choices that I made.
Wow.
So I understand firsthand how a child can be harmed
Hmm.
through the choices that we make. And with my last breath, I will continue to fight for those children because they are unseen, unheard, and just not thought about, period. Dot.
Yeah.
The long lasting effects that trauma can have in their lives. It doesn't have to be just from incarceration, it could be from so many other issues. But trauma affects children in a very profound way. They go untreated into adulthood, and they don't offend themselves, they don't commit crimes themselves, but they will go through life with that trauma untreated.
Hmm.
So it is very important to address the issue of trauma within a child.
Yeah. That's so good. And I kind of feel like with children, they're not as likely to share. Maybe they don't know how to talk about their trauma, so they a lot of times may just tuck it in, and it becomes, without maybe them realizing it, it becomes a part of who they are because they tuck it in internally. And like you said, if it's never dealt with, it's like having an open wound, and if you just place a band-aid over it, not really dealing with the wound itself, then it's still there. It's the band-aid is just covering it up.
Exactly. And children don't know how to communicate. We teach them how to communicate, they
Hmm.
emulate us. So if we give them a way to communicate, like with my children's book, I use that as a vehicle of communication for a child that's going through some type of trauma.
Hmm.
And the parent, at the end of the book, I ask questions at the end that the child can answer. The caregiver or the parent will ask them questions. They'll answer those questions from the book. That helps the parent to understand where that child is at emotionally,
Yeah.
spiritually. mentally. And also, there's a section there at the back of the book where the child can draw certain things,
Mm.
ask them to draw certain things. This gives that caregiver or that parent an opportunity to see what's happening with the child and to get communication going with the child about their feelings
Mhm.
without the child being threatened.
Yeah,
So it's very important that we do that, that we teach a child how to communicate their feelings that is appropriate to the age that they are.
yeah. That's so good because otherwise, a child can easily end up growing up and not knowing how to express themselves or doing things they think they may be right, but it's not. But that's so good that you're doing that. Back in 1995, Yolanda Adams had this song called "What About the Children." And on that note, you wrote a short film. You have a short film called "The Candle" that shows what happens to children when their parents are incarcerated. Well, you already answered the question. The question was going to be what inspired that, but could you tell us more about that?
Yes, The Candle is a documentary, a short film about children of incarcerated parents, and it was inspired, as I mentioned earlier, by the life experience that I had.
Mhm.
And children of incarcerated parents go all their lives not being seen or heard. So I took two adult children of incarcerated parents and built the film around them. They tell you what they thought, what they felt, etc.
Mhm.
throughout the film. And they represent, I don't want to say they depict, they represent other adult children of incarcerated parents and
Mhm.
the young children that are coming behind them. It creates a platform for these children to express their feelings, to answer questions that no one's bothered to ask them as a child. They answer them in adulthood and tell you what they thought, what they felt, what they would say to their younger selves, etc.
Mhm.
2.5 million children are affected by incarcerated parents.
Wow.
2.5 million. That's just under the age of 18. Brian, that's not talking about those who are already adults.
Yeah.
Those 2.5 million children, the minute their parent is arrested, should have a community around them. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but
Yeah.
that village has dropped the ball when it comes to
Mhm.
these children, because that village should consist of the community organizations, the rec centers. It should consist of the church,
Yeah.
prison ministries within the church. It should consist of the teachers. If you have a resource counselor in the school, a police officer in the school, you should have a trauma counselor in the school,
Yeah.
so that this child is supported from the minute that parent is arrested. None of these things exist working cohesively together. None of them. And they should, because that child did nothing.
Yeah.
At what point do we support them? So I felt that I had to do my part to be a part of the solution. I don't want to talk about, oh, these kids are out there. I want to talk about, here's what we can do to make a difference in the lives of these children. And I'm showing you adult children, as successful as they are, they have had to deal with these issues all their lives untreated, because the caregivers or the parents that are left out there to provide for the child don't necessarily put that child in therapy or can't afford to put that child in therapy.
Mhm.
But that child needs all that, plus their community, to continue to be healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And no one seems to realize that. When you talk about victims, children of incarcerated parents are the biggest victims of all.
Mhm. Yeah.
They
That's
didn't ask for any of it.
Yeah, and just like you were saying, they also should be able to have like some type of inner healing as well, because there's I'm sure a lot of internal like why and regret, or maybe they cause abandonment issues, or just there's a lot that could be going on in the child that they may not realize until they're older. That yeah.
Well, because, and the caregiver, I'm not faulting anyone,
Hmm.
but what I'm saying is we're not even thinking of them. That caregiver is not only dealing with the child, but they're dealing with the loved one that's incarcerated as well. The caregiver has got a lot of stress on them. We've got to support that child and support that caregiver, because
Hmm.
if you support that caregiver, the child is supported. We've
Yeah.
got to. There's no other way around it. So my film, The Candle, speaks to that. It's not just a film that tells you what's going on, it's a call to action. And it's followed up by what's called the recipe. I actually have a guide that you can take afterwards and use it. I challenge you to use it in your community. Let's bring a community organization, a school resource, a trauma counselor, or a school teacher to
Yeah.
and the church together and sit down and say, how can we make a difference in the lives of children in your school? I guarantee you 14 to 15% of those children are dealing with an incarcerated parent.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're keeping it a secret because it's taboo. It's a shame-based thing. None of these things should be occurring. None of these things. If that teacher is aware of what's going on with that child, they know how best to reach that child.
Yeah.
If you have a counselor that's available in the school that the child can go to, and maybe an after-school program for those children of trauma to go to, then they start to learn a healthier way, and their peers start to realize how they can support them. How do I know these things? Because my daughter's peers supported her from the 6th grade to the 12th grade. They
Hmm.
knew where her mother was, and she kept that same body of friends through high school.
Wow. Yeah.
So I know it can work. I'm not speaking from a book or from a theological sense or anything else.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from life's
Personal
experience.
experience. Yeah.
It can work. And why it's not working on a larger scale is beyond me, because everyone just stops thinking about the children
Yeah.
themselves. They think of them as needing a bus ride to visit. They need so much more than that.
Yeah.
So much more than that. They need every single one of you out there every single day to support them through life in small ways. You don't have to give thousands of dollars. You could give an hour a week. If you're a retired social worker, if you're a retired teacher, if you're a retired therapist, you can make a difference in a child's life in such
Mhm.
a small way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
That's
is the
so
purpose
true.
of the candle, to make that, to speak to that difference that can be made.
Is the candle out?
The candle is now available. You can see it on a Represent Justice website. You can see it on that website, and it's also available it's been shown in conferences, but it's also available for private screenings, for screenings as
Okay.
well.
Awesome. That's great. Had a question about that. And I guess each case would be different. Sometimes when the parent is locked up, they don't want the children to visit them while they're locked up because they don't want them seeing them in that state. Then I've heard of there's some others who invite the children, and it's a process, and they're able to talk, help talk the child through what's going on. Concerning that, do you feel there's a wrong or a right, or what do you think is the best approach as far as that?
As a parent, I would never tell another parent what's right or wrong for them.
Yeah,
As first and foremost,
yeah,
as to a caregiver, I would never tell them what's right or wrong for them.
mhm, yeah,
What I will say is that that child needs answers. That child needs a connection to their parent,
mhm,
unless there's some legal reason as to why that child cannot connect with their parent.
mhm,
That's totally separate. But if there is a way for that child to connect with that parent and
yeah,
it's legally approved, that child should be able to connect with their parent.
mhm,
That child needs to be able to connect with their parent. That child is worrying about their parent. They're fearful for their parent.
yeah,
They're confused as to why their parent isn't in their life. And then if you want that child to be adjusted
mhm,
to the circumstance that they're in, there has to be communication, there has to be connection. There is no way around that.
yeah, yeah. You're right. It is definitely needed. And You also deal with family mental health, and I believe that's so important. As my pastor once said, healthy families create healthy churches, and healthy churches create healthy cities. In regards to family mental health, how important it is that it's dealt with, especially I've noticed in the in the black community. There's always been that saying, what goes on in the house stays in the house. But and unfortunately, therapy has been looked down on. But it's like it's okay to not be okay. You need help.
Yeah, mental health. The issue of mental health in our culture, in the Black culture, has always been well, just mental or medical health has always been. There's been an underlying suspicion to it because it's our generations did not trust in the medical field for
Mhm.
various reasons.
Yeah.
So that has been carried by each generation after. The mental health aspect of things is not just a color barrier; it's a barrier based on income level.
Mm.
Those of a lower income level don't trust that environment. They can't even afford that environment. So
Yeah.
you don't learn to trust it. But it's very necessary to all communities. Culturally, for us, we have to break that cycle because it has to be put in place
Hmm.
for any child of trauma. We have to use the therapeutic community. We have to use the therapeutic community just for mothers who give birth because finally they're accepting of postpartum. They need that therapeutic community because if she's healthy, she can raise her children. So we've got to break the cycle, the myth of utilizing mental health.
Hmm.
And it has to be made affordable for the community, the lower income community, to utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I definitely like believe if it's not, in the lower income may be the ones who really need it, and if something is there that they need that they can't afford, then that's like denying them the privilege of healing, almost
Of
you know.
mhm, of healing, and most definitely. That's why I call upon and I continue to challenge on any platform that I'm on. I challenge those retired therapists. I challenge those retired social workers
Hmm.
because you can help. You can help. Donate an hour of your time per week.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
affordability is not the issue.
yeah. That's so true. And also on the flip script, there are those. Older, I've talked with a lot, and they feel like they're retired, that there's no purpose. But especially like what you were just mentioned, like there's still a whole lot of purpose, still a bunch of wisdom that they're able to pour into the younger generations and pour into people at large. So it's like they still matter. They're still needed.
Very much needed. Very much needed. Can't be done. This can't be done without them. If you're a retired social worker, therapist, psychologist, uh, medical professional, CBT, whatever,
Hmm.
you are so needed with the children of incarcerated parents. You are
Yeah.
so needed with children of trauma. You are so needed to the caregivers of these children of trauma, these children of incarcerated parents. You are necessary in their lives. You can create programs. You can spend time with these children. You can work with their caregivers, their parents that are not incarcerated, and you can put a whole family back together. You're the only ones who can. You have
Yeah.
the wisdom, you have the skill set, you have the patience
Yeah.
to make this happen. You're the most important people out there to help this community.
Yeah, the model in the moment, and they may look at it as just a small amount of time, but like how a lot of times that could place a simple gesture could place a smile on a child's face and like change their whole day or their lives.
Most definitely. And if nothing else, if you just go to the Candle film on uh, on the website, you can learn more about the film itself.
Hmm.
There are things on there that you can see the recipe on there. The recipe is just the guideline itself. The film is a short film. It's only 14 minutes, 27 seconds, but it can make the difference in millions of children's lives. If you
Wow.
can just spend those 14 minutes and 27 seconds, if you can take on that recipe, I'm not asking you to give me millions of dollars. I'm asking you to make the difference in a child's life.
Hmm.
If we say the children are our future, what are you willing to invest in their future?
Yeah.
I'm just asking you to take the expertise that you have and devote it to one child
Hmm.
in a community, or one program for a community, or
Yeah.
one prison ministry from a church.
Yeah. There's so many different ways and avenues that people can help.
Yes. And all it takes is the skills that they possess.
Yeah.
We're talking about that village. We're always talking about that village. Let's
Hmm.
walk this village out. Let's not
Yeah.
talk about this village. Let's walk this village out.
Be the village. Yes.
Be the village. Show these children who are coming up. And I really want to let you know 85% of the children of incarcerated parents are successful in their lives.
Hmm.
They don't offend themselves, they don't go to prison themselves, but they walk around with a mental health illness
Hmm.
untreated for the rest of their lives because no one bothered to help them.
Yeah.
We can help them to be healthy, happy, and whole. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes the skill we possess. And
Hmm.
some of my retired brothers and sisters out there, if you are a
Yeah.
social worker, if you are a therapist, if you are a teacher, if you are a part of any of the ministries within your church, come together, and let's help these children. Let's create a program within our community that the minute a person is arrested, we have our organization step in and swoop that child up. Show the caregiver, look, this is what we can do. Bring the child over to the community center once a week at this time of day. At the school, have a teacher that's on board that says, okay, so this child's parent was just incarcerated. All right, we're going to bring them into our after school program, blah, blah, blah. This is all we have to do, guys. It does not take millions of dollars. It just takes our passion for the skill level that we possess.
Yeah. And it's the simple things that go a long way, and
A
it's
long
needed,
way.
and it's needed.
Take a group of these children to a theater activity.
Yeah.
That's considered art therapy. It shows them another way to release these emotions that they have. Maybe
Hmm.
they'll end up doing it through music, become your next musical prodigy.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be your next major famous director, producer, writer. But if we don't take them into these environments, they don't learn the way to cope in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Be resolution. Be the resolution. I don't want you to be informed. I want you to be the resolution. The being informed is not enough. There has to be action.
Yeah. That's so true because writing down a resolution or writing down change or things that needs to happen is okay, but unless those words become like a living, are brought to action, then all they are words on a paper.
They're meaningless. They're meaningless. A child doesn't need to know that you wrote it down beautifully. A
Yeah.
child needs to know that you're there to support them.
Yeah.
With a child, you cannot just talk about it. You have to be about it.
Be about it. Yeah.
And I'm challenging every adult with the one of the skill sets I just mentioned repeatedly. I'm challenging you to be about it. I'm challenging you to formulate a program in your community that is focused on these children so that the minute something happens with their parent, that parent is incarcerated, you are informed and your program steps in.
Yeah.
And we retirees, we sit around and we don't have things to do that show that we still are meaningful in our lives. This is something we can do.
Yeah. You can still make an impact, make an imprint.
A huge impact and imprint.
Leave a footprint. In the sand, so when the next generation comes along, yeah,
Maybe you formulate your program through the school. The
yeah,
schools would love that help. Maybe you formulate it through one of the ministries in your church.
yeah, something.
But you can do it. It can be done. Maybe you work alongside an organization that transports the children to the prison to visit the parent. But it can be done. Go to my website. Go to the Candle the Film website and see the recipe there. Take the recipe, download it, share it, create a program from it.
Mhm.
But create something for the children of incarcerated parents in your community because they live right next door to you.
Yeah,
They live two
yeah,
doors down, around the corner. They're there. Trust me, they're there. That caregiver is working hers or his fingers to the bone to provide for that child and provide for the loved one that's incarcerated at the same time and cannot do it alone, but is not asking for help because how can you? You're too busy trying to survive.
yeah. Yeah,
The candle is just a reminder, it's a platform to let you know that not only does this problem exist on a huge scale, but it needs to be solved. And
yeah,
it can be solved. It is doable to solve this issue. And let us not forget the children that have been thrown into foster care as a result of that incarcerated parent.
hmm,
I call on you again, social workers, therapists, teachers, retirees. They need our help.
yeah,
These children have been invisible for too long. I'm going to do everything in my power to put them out front and to let people know, hey, village, where are you?
yeah. That's good. It reminds me of this story. This man had all these tropical fish, and one night he went to bed and forgot to turn the thermostat down, and he woke up the next morning and all the tropical fish had died and were floating at the top. And the man asked the strangest question. He said to himself, "I wonder if the fish cried out in the night, but no one heard them."
Mhm.
And it makes me think like how many kids are crying out, but people are too busy that no one hears them.
Exactly. And the thing about the child, we have to all be able to remember when we were children.
Mm.
And there's always a don't ask
Yeah,
portion of growing up as a child. So if I can't ask, how can I address what I'm feeling?
yeah,
So that child is walking around with fears, concerns, pain, and feeling your fears and pain at the same time. So they carry that too. And then they have to go into each and every day with a loss or separation from a parent on top of that. This is just trauma, culminating, trauma. It's just a cycle.
yeah,
But because we're not talking about it, we think that everything's okay. If it's not okay for you, it's not okay for that child.
hmm,
You both need to be supported. At no point am I saying that that caretaker or that parent is at fault. That person that's stepping into that gap. I'm not saying you're at fault. I'm saying you need to be supported and that child needs to be supported also.
hmm,
And that child can't be supported if you're not being supported.
yeah,
So I challenge those same factions again. You've got to reach out to those individuals. That caregivers got to feel like you're supporting them, not acting as though you're giving them a handout.
Yeah,
That
that's
child
so,
needs to know that they are loved and supported by all.
yeah. It's needed. You do so much for others, and you pour into others so much. How do you make sure you are poured back into and refreshed? Because someone can't pour from an empty cup. So how do you make sure you stay full?
Well, self care is everything. So usually I go to retreats, uh, mental health retreats, religious retreats, things of that nature to fill my teacup again.
Yeah,
'Cause I always imagine it as this teacup, and I can tell when it's getting empty. And then I have that support unit around me, what I call my accountability partners around me
yeah,
at all times. I have to, because you have to take those moments. And my ultimate self care moment is with my great grandson, my 10-month old great grandson. I call
oh,
him my joy bubble. So when I have my joy bubble with me, that helps me to release a lot of the weight.
yeah. That's awesome, Joy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give my joy bubble Cinco a lot of credit.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That is great. And how can people reach out to you?
People can reach out to me through the candle, the film,
Okay.
uh, and that's the website. And
Mhm.
you can also reach out to me through LinkedIn. Just go on my name and reach out to me that way as well.
Yeah, that's great. I really want to thank you for being a bridge over troubled waters. You are what the world needs. So just thank you for being the Jessie Mabrey that God has called you to be, and for walking in that and owning it, and reaching others as well. Definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian, for that. And also, I want people to know that if you have a younger child, go to J Lane and J Lane LLC.
Mhm.
That's where the children's book information can be found, and it's really something that is helpful for them. I thank you, Brian, for allowing me to be on here today. I appreciate everyone, and please, everyone, don't forget the children exist. I'm going
Mhm.
to keep raising their voices for them, and I ask you to join me in doing so. This is not a competition. I'm
Yeah,
a part of the village, and you are too. Let's do this together.
definitely. I love that. Real quick before we get off, could you share more about Jay Lane?
Jay Lane is a children's book, and it's about four children who go on a journey together. And the journey that they go on, they find that they have something in common that they never realized before.
Mhm.
But they are four children who go on an adventure. That's the best way to say it. It's a
Yeah.
four-book series, and the first book is out now. The second book will be coming out at the end of August, first part of September. It's a series of four books, and it starts with Jay Lane. And Jay Lane is a place
Okay.
that the four children learn to enjoy.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. And where can that be purchased?
It can be purchased on Amazon,
Okay.
and the book is called Jay Lane.
Jay Lane.
Yes.
All right, you guys, make sure you go out and get it and support it. And yeah, again, thank you. I know everyone has been beyond blessed by this. As always, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and really take to heart the wisdom and what Jesse was talking about, and really want to encourage you to stand up and make a difference, be the change you want to see. So yeah, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Well, everyone, thank you again. This 10th season is definitely off to a great start. We got another awesome guest coming on next week. And as always, this is BDP Brian David Porter, still living in purpose, on purpose, intentionally. Until next time, you guys be blessed.